Well, it was Kershaw Day for the first time in a long, long time, and it went about as well as we could have hoped. Dodgers win. Kershaw looked good. Uh, Back-to-back homers from Nick Ahmed and Shohei Ohtani, just like we all predicted in spring training. Anyway, a lot to talk about. Let's get live on Locked On Dodgers.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Dodger fans, this is Locked On Dodgers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks to our everydayers for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning. And thanks to those of you who are joining us live here on Thursday afternoon, or Thursday evening, I guess. Afternoon, somewhere between afternoon and evening, right after the Dodgers got done winning 3 of 4 from the Giants. We remember this show is free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube simply by searching for Locked On Dodgers. So please subscribe wherever you're watching or listening right now. If this is your first time with us, my name is Jeff Snyder. My co-host is Vince Samperio. He will be joining us momentarily. Vince and I are both lifelong Dodger fans, just like a lot of you. We've also both spent time covering the Dodgers in the press box and the locker room. So we bring you the smart fans perspective on our boys in blue every weekday morning. This episode is brought to you by SupplyHouse.com. SupplyHouse.com is the reliable way to get parts fast. Shop for your next plumbing, HVAC, or electrical job and get fast shipping from coast to coast at SupplyHouse.com. And this game was... It was a big game coming in for a few reasons. Clayton Kershaw's first start in almost 10 months is a big deal. Obviously a big deal for the Dodgers, big deal for me as a Clayton Kershaw fan. Everydayers know Clayton Kershaw is my favorite player of all time. So exciting time for that. Big game for the Dodgers because coming into the series, it was a difference between winning the series or splitting the series with the Giants. And a 4-game series is hard to win. It's hard to win 3 out of 4. And after last night's game, the ugly taste in the mouth after yesterday's game, it was an important game for the Dodgers to win. And all in all, I mean, it went about as well as anybody could have hoped for. And that's a big deal. Kershaw went 4 innings. We'll focus this first segment on Kershaw. I'm going to try to track the chat too. Like I said, Vince will be in here with me in just a minute. So I'll try to keep an eye on the chat while I am talking. But, once Vince is in, it's easier for the one of us who isn't talking to keep an eye on the chat. But Kershaw coming in, they didn't give an exact pitch count. Dave Roberts said he hoped to get him into the 5th inning. But looking at his rehab starts, eyeballing, it was like they're not going to let him throw more than about 80 pitches. And Kershaw himself had said last week he wasn't built up yet. And that's why after his last rehab start, he said, I want to do whatever's best for the team. So if it's not going to help the team, me not being built up to go deep in the game, I don't want to come back yet. And they made the decision to bring him back. And I was happy for the decision. But we knew he wasn't going to go very deep in the game, which is why yesterday's game was such a... It's not like the Dodgers punted that game. Yohan Ramirez has had success at times this year, but yeah, yesterday's game was clearly an example of you can't play to win all 162 games. And if the Dodgers had played to win that game last night, like going all out to win it, they probably would have lost this game, and they probably would have lost yesterday's game too. They were already trailing, so it's frustrating as a fan when the team doesn't, when you put Yohan Ramirez on the mound when he's lousy. But the fact is, everybody knew going into that game that it was going to be Yohan Ramirez's last day on the team. So might as well get as much out of him as we can. That ended up not being very much. But anyway, what all that boils down to is the Dodgers knew that Clayton Kershaw wasn't going to go deep in this game. He ended up throwing about 75 pitches in 4 innings and, not as clean and crisp, especially that second inning when he gave up the 2 runs. But also he struck out 3 batters in a row after getting himself into trouble. So that was in some ways his best inning from a fan standpoint, from a going forward standpoint. That was a big deal. And so getting through 4 innings was huge. And then the Dodgers just had to battle to get through the rest of the game, ended up using 6 of their 8 relievers. The only guys they didn't use were Anthony Bonda and Ryan Yarbrough, both of whom probably weren't available. If this guy had gone to extra innings, Kike Hernandez, would have been the next pitcher, probably. Because what's his name? For Brent Honeywell, ninth different Dodger to get a save this year. We're 90% of the way to my prediction coming true. But Honeywell would have pitched as long as he could, probably had another inning after the ninth. He could have gone the 10th, but if it goes to 11 innings, it's probably Kike on the mound. The Dodgers would have had to punt that game because they were just out of pitching. We're going to talk in the third segment about the bullpen and the state that it's in right now. They don't have a day off until Monday. So we're going to have to talk about that. But overall, like what they got from Kershaw today, getting the 6 strikeouts in 4 innings, and realistically, maybe it shouldn't have been 6 strikeouts because there were a couple defensive plays that maybe could have been made. And like the 3 of those strikeouts came in the second inning. And that's why sometimes people look more at strikeout percentage than strikeouts per inning, because strikeout percentage wasn't as good as the strikeouts per inning because he did allow 8 base runners in the 4 innings. So to get through 4 innings, he had to, what's that? 12, about 20 hitters. So 6 strikeouts out of 20 hitters it's still a solid strikeout rate, but not quite as impressive as the 13.5 per 9 that the strikeouts per 9 looks like. But again, for what we got from Kershaw, what we saw was this is a major league pitcher still. And unfortunately, that was a question coming in. Kershaw has never been through an arm surgery before. Kershaw's 36 years old. We hoped, we even assumed, but we didn't know that Kershaw would be able to get big league hitters out. And now we do know that he can. And especially for his first start back, like things are going to get better from here. And that's really good news. It was like, as a Kershaw fan, as a Dodger fan, as a fan of the team that needs Kershaw right now in the rotation, it was as good as you could hope for coming back. And I was really, really happy about that. I'm seeing in the chat that, you guys seem to agree with me. Looks like maybe somebody doesn't agree with me on, Kenny doesn't agree with me on yesterday's game. Oh no. Kenny says he doesn't think that they knew Johan BDFA, thought he was trying to give him a better look. Or maybe I can't tell if that's what you're saying. Anyway, yeah, they knew he was going to be DFA'd, and that's why they used him, because they wanted to save the arms that would be on the roster for today's game. And they somewhat effectively did that. Joe Kelly was still able to pitch. Ryan Yarbrough was the guy they had to use last night, who they didn't want to use. And ultimately, he wasn't available in this game. Yarbrough's the next up on the DFA line anyway, when somebody like Bruce Dargratterall or Ryan Brazier comes back and they need a 40-man roster spot. Yarbrough is not long for this team, probably. And so they will continue to abuse him as much as they can. But all in all, really, really good game today. And we're going to come back in a minute and we're going to talk about the offense, because the offense is the reason that the Dodgers won this game. The pitching was pretty good. Kershaw was, solid. Alex Vesia had a stumble. The rest of the relievers were good, but the offense is the reason they won. And there were some pretty exciting offensive moments in this game. So I'm going to come back in a minute. Hopefully Vince will be with me soon. He left his laptop in his car, so it overheated a little bit. So he's waiting for his laptop to cool down before he can join us, but hopefully he will join us while I read some ads. So please keep it locked on Dodgers. This episode is brought to you by Booking.com. Booking.yeah. With summer travel heating up, especially travel for baseball games, it's easy to explore It's time to explore those U.S. cities that you've always secretly wanted to learn more about. Yes, we are talking about other team cities. With hotels, bed and breakfast, vacation rentals, resorts, and so much more on Booking.com, you might just find your perfect stay even in a rival team city. The Dodgers head to Houston for this weekend. Houston is a beautiful city in the spring. You couldn't pay me enough money to go there in July, but after that, the Dodgers go to San Diego. That's a beautiful city all the time. You want to go check the Dodgers in San Diego? Check out Booking.com to find the perfect place to stay. If a city has a big league team, it also has great places to stay. I've booked great hotels in nearly every MLB city in America, and Booking.com makes that so much easier. From hotels that overlook stadiums to family-friendly resorts, Booking.com has so many choices across the U.S. for your summer travel this MLB season. The right stay can make you a fan of any U.S. city, even your rivals. Book today on Booking.com on the site or in the Booking.com app. Booking.com, Booking.yeah. This episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. Look, we love sports. We love them so much. We never want them to stop. But as the playoffs and the other sports wind down, we get fewer and fewer games, and the sports just aren't sportsing like we want them to. But FanDuel lets us keep the sports going whenever we want. All we have to do is open the app and dream up bets anytime we are in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. I don't know if you ever had an option to bet on FanDuel that Nick Ahmed and Shohei Ohtani would hit back-to-back home runs this year. But if you did, I bet you could have made a lot of money on that one. So head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Hey, I am back. Thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning. Thanks to our everydayers for being with us every weekday morning. If you're not everydayer, it's easy to become one. Just watch or listen every weekday morning. You can also check out Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Sports Los Angeles, the two 24/7 streaming channels on YouTube from the Locked On Podcast Network. Locked On Sports LA is where you can find the Locked On Dodgers postcast, hosted by Pete Fox after nearly every Dodger game. It's a different voice than you get here. Pete and I disagree on a lot of things, but we both love the Dodgers and just like you do. And that's one of the fun things about talking baseball is you don't have to agree with people. We say at the end of every episode, you don't have to agree. We love talking Dodgers with all of you. And the postcast is another way to do that. You can also catch every pitch of every Dodger game on Sirius XM or the SXM app by searching for Dodgers. And you can go beyond the podcast and become a Locked On Dodgers insider by going to joinsubtext.com/Locked On Dodgers. Text directly with us, get our thoughts during games, before games, anytime you want. It's just a few bucks a month with a free 14-day trial. So let's talk about the offense, because this game, it wasn't the way anybody would have written it up. I suspect even after Nick Ahmed was on the team, let alone the fact that nobody expected Nick Ahmed to be on this team, even after he was on the team, I don't think anybody predicted a game where Kike Hernandez had 3 hits and drove in 2 runs, and Austin Barnes had a couple hits, and Nick Ahmed had a couple hits, including a home run. Like, it's just not the way it's been written up. It's not the way this team has performed most of the season. The bottom of the lineup has been an issue. In this game, Gavin Lux started a couple rallies, once with a walk, once with a double, and scored the first 2 runs for the Dodgers. And he ended up with 2 hits, on base 3 times, which we're coming to expect more from Lux. But then Kike Hernandez against a right-handed pitcher, a good right-handed pitcher. Maybe Kike found something. Like I felt like that game against the Red Sox last weekend was a fluke. And I still lean that way, but I mean, he looked like a good hitter today. And that first RBI hit he had just swung and missed at the same exact pitch. And then he made the adjustment on strike 2. He got the same pitch. And instead of trying to hit a home run, he poked it to right field and got an RBI, which is awesome. And there's a lot of Kike's approach that I've often thought, man, if he would just go opposite field instead of trying to pull everything, because he's stepping in the bucket a lot of the time and not reaching pitches, aren't even on the outside corner, on the outside half of the plate, and he can't even reach them. And so that approach, I hope he can do that. But that's the, sorry, I glanced at the chat and got myself distracted. Yeah. So I love that from Kike Hernandez, that approach. Gavin Lux didn't surprise me. That this is, Lux is going to slump again at some point this season, but what we're seeing from Lux right now is basically what we were seeing from him for most of 2022. And that's the thing. In 2022, before Gavin Lux's neck injury, he was a very good hitter. He was batting 9th. There was all sorts of articles about how he was the best number 9 hitter in baseball. And it really was true. His OPS was roughly the same as Trey Turner's until he had the neck injury. So the version of Gavin Lux we're seeing right now is basically what we've seen before. We have seen that version before, and it worked really well for Gavin Lux and for the Dodgers. And so it's something that I think we can not guarantee to continue. Like I said, he's going to go through a slump again. But for me, it just feels good to know that that this Gavin Lux is still capable of this. And look who's, I thought Vince was in here. I can see him in here. maybe he's not quite ready yet to hop in. So I will go back. But this version of Gavin Lux being still in him is a big deal because it changes what the Dodgers' needs are. Because already when the Dodgers get Mookie Betts back, if they get Max Muncy back, that changes the lineup a lot. Now, if Gavin Lux is a good hitter again, that changes a lot too. And so it adjusts what holes they need to fill. For me right now, honestly, the biggest hole the Dodgers need to fill is the problem that they have two outfielders whose best position is right field, whose only good defensive position is right field. And in a game like today, neither of them was playing right field. And we saw Andy Paez look bad in center field. Teoscar Hernandez looked bad in left field today. It was rough. And so a guy like either Randy Arozarena, who at least forces the issue and said, okay, I'm the left fielder, and forces Teoscar to right, or Luis Robert, who then forces Paez to right, or both, and trade Paez. That I feel like that's the biggest hole right now, at least the biggest hole that doesn't have an obvious internal solution, hopefully coming back. I'm not thrilled about Muncy's chances of coming back. I think he'll probably be back, but Muncy, like the longer it takes, the more concerned I get because Muncy is streaky anyway. And so if Muncy doesn't come back till September, like, can we count on him to be a good hitter in October? I don't know. And so like that one concerns me. Mookie, we know Mookie will be back and we can assume that he will be good. And I'm even hopeful that Mookie will be, because of the break that he got, he will be more fresh in October. And maybe this will be a blessing in disguise come October. But in the end, I'm sure Mookie will be back, and I'm pretty sure he'll be good. Muncy, I don't have the same confidence in. Like my ideal thing right now, if the Dodgers could get Arozarena and Isaac Paredes from the Rays in the same trade, that shores up third base and left field, and then then address the other needs. And this isn't instead of starting pitching. I would like them to get a starting pitcher, all that, but those holes. But what we saw from this offense, anyway, getting back to the offense, was that the bottom of the order came through, and no one bigger than Nick Ahmed in the bottom of the eighth after the Giants had just scored 2 in the top of the eighth to tie the game off of Alex Vesia, a rare bump in the road for Vesia. Nick Ahmed came up, and with 1 out, he hit a go-ahead home run. And it was kind of the moment of a lifetime for Oral Hershiser. He's just talking about Ahmed would love to hit a home run here. And honestly, my thought was, well, let's be realistic, Oral. This is Nick Ahmed. And I've seen Nick Ahmed hit home runs. He did have a couple years where he had decent pop. I've seen him homer off Clayton Kershaw. And I do know that Tyler Rogers is generally not the righty killer you might expect him to be. But still, I was hoping for Ahmed to get a base hit. And I would have been happy with that. And even when he hit it, it didn't look like a home run off the bat, but it carried. And it was a huge moment for Ahmed. And I worry, I hope that people don't get their hopes up too much on Ahmed offensively, because he's not a great hitter. And he's got 3 hits in his first 2 games with the Dodgers, including a game-winning home run, which is awesome. He's not going to hit like that all the time. But you know what? He doesn't strike out a ton, and good things can happen when you put the ball in play. That's a good thing. And so we'll take that. And this was as huge a moment. You have to figure it felt great for him. He's been in the National League West his whole career, mostly with the D-backs and then with the Giants this year. So the Giants are the team that released him just a couple of weeks ago. It's that revenge. He's probably disliked the Giants for a long time before he joined the team, on that, division rival level. So, yeah, it had to have felt good for him. Vince, if you were actually here this time, make yourself active and I'll pop you in if you want. All right. Vince is here. Hey, Vince, how you doing?
I'm all right, man. I learned to not accidentally leave your laptop in your car in the sun for 3 hours. So.
Yeah. Well, we all learn lessons different ways. Another lesson we learned today was that you can hit a ball 46-degree launch angle and it can be a home run. Because right after the next pitch after Nick Ahmed's home run, Shohei Ohtani hit one. It was one of the weirdest home runs you'll see. It was tied for the fourth highest home run this year. The other one at 46 degrees was actually Isaac Paredes, future Dodger Isaac Paredes at Angel Stadium just a couple months ago. And then Lamont Wade hit one 50 degrees. That was the highest one. And I actually haven't even watched it yet. It's at home, right field wall. And it barely cleared the wall in right field. Just ridiculous. But this one was the second farthest hit at that high end launch angle. Went over 360 feet because Shohei hit it 112 miles an hour. And, when you hit the ball that hard, it'll go far even if you hit it too high,
Yeah, it was it came so quick after the Ahmed homer and after, I guess, the initial shock that I didn't even see the initial ball off the bat. I just saw them pan to the outfield. But then when they showed the replay and off the bat on the replay, it looks like he hit it straight up. And it definitely was not straight up and was pretty far out there. So
it was awesome. And two about as different as two home runs as you can get. You got one that looked like it was maybe going to get down and be a double to the gap, and then another one that looked like it was going to be a routine fly out to right field. But they were both home runs and all the runs the Dodgers needed ultimately because Brent Honeywell came in and got the save, ninth different Dodger to get a save, help from Freddie Freeman on a double play. Great play by Freeman to make the scoop and keep his foot on the bag just long enough to get the out. It was pretty awesome. So, Vince, we have covered Clayton Kershaw Day. We have covered the offense. So when we come back, we're going to cover what in the heck are the Dodgers going to do about the bullpen for the next couple days because it has been way overworked. So thank you all for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen, and please keep it Locked On Dodgers. This episode is brought to you by SupplyHouse.com. Order supplies from the website that's made for the skilled trades. Find thousands of parts from hundreds of brands in just a couple clicks at SupplyHouse.com. SupplyHouse.com gives you 24/7 access to a huge selection of plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with fast delivery anywhere in the U.S. Need help with an order? Get industry-leading after-sales service from their friendly and knowledgeable customer support team and talk to a real person every time. And there's great news for plumbers, technicians, and contractors. Being a pro has its perks. Trade industry professionals can join their free TradeMaster program for free shipping and serious discounts on every order. Over 100,000 pros already trust the TradeMaster program to deliver results. Apply for your membership today and get a competitive edge on every order at supplyhouse.com/TM. Save money and time when you order online. Order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies from supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. Hey, we are back. Thank you again for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning. Thanks for being here live with us on Thursday afternoon. If you are, we really appreciate that. Active stuff going on in the chat today. Now that Vince is here, hopefully we can keep an eye on that a little bit more. This is actually something I want to address that I'm seeing in the chat. Elisheva's comment about Freddie, which I will hop to in just a second. But first, let me remind you, you can go by on the podcast and become a Locked On Dodgers insider by going to joinsubtext.com/Locked On Dodgers. You can check out Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Sports Los Angeles on YouTube, 24/7 streaming channels from the Locked On Podcast Network. You can catch every pitch of every Dodger game on SiriusXM or the SXM app. And you can be an everydayer by watching and listening every weekday morning and make that easier on yourself by subscribing wherever you're watching or listening right now. Elisheva asks if Freddie is going to have to take a day off because his son has a medical issue. I don't know if you saw that, Vince. Did you see that on social media today? That apparently Freddie and his wife were in the hospital last night, most of the night, with one of their sons who is having some medical issues. And I thought that was one of the most remarkable things about that play that Freddie made in the ninth inning, that this is the ninth inning of a day game on a hot day when he was up until 4 or 5 in the morning with his son, like just super dad and Superman at the same time. I assume if Freddie was going to get a day off, it would have been today. And so the fact that he was in the lineup today, I know that it's important to him to play every day. I know it's important to his family. They talked a lot on the broadcast about Kershaw and how baseball is such a family thing for the Kershaw family. I think it's the same way with the Freemans. And so I know that Freddie and Chelsea are hand in hand on all of their family and baseball stuff. And so Yeah, I assume Freddie's going to keep being in the lineup unless there's actually a medical emergency that he needs to be there for during a game. But obviously, we really hope that everything is okay with their little boy, because as a dad, and you don't even have to be a dad, everybody has somebody they love, and there's no worse feeling than that feeling of being helpless when somebody's having a health issue.
Yeah, I think you could see it at the end of the game when they did the replay on the double play. I don't think I've ever seen Freddie look that annoyed. It was probably one of those things where it's hot, and he's out. You're asking for the replay, and I'm sure he has, like I said, a lot of other stuff on his mind. So I had never seen Freddie's face look like that. But yeah, I mean, hopefully everything works out, and we'll see what happens. I would assume if he travels, he's going to play, because realistically, that's the way it would be.
Yep. Yeah. So let's dig into the Dodgers bullpen. We talked a little bit. I assume you talked on yesterday's episode. I haven't had a chance to listen yet. I talked a little bit about it earlier today about last night's game and just the Dodgers kind of having their hand forced with the bullpen. And we saw the results of that today. The Dodgers won the game because they had guys available who they deliberately chose not to use last night. It's part of managing a long season. But also the managing is not done, because the Dodgers have 3 more games before their next day off. Everybody is overworked. They had to use 6 of their 8 relievers today. And so there's a couple guys at least who are going to be unavailable tomorrow. And Gavin Stone, you hope he can go out and give you a good deep performance. And that ultimately that's the best answer to what are the Dodgers going to do about their bullpen? Well, Gavin Stone's going to throw 8 innings tomorrow. I don't know if that's realistic. The Astros are playing really well right now. Who knows what's going to happen, but that would be ideal. But it also seems like the Dodgers might need to plan for the less ideal scenario. And the challenge there is that right now, unless I'm missing something, I think Alex Vesia is the only guy in the bullpen with options available. And now they could option Vesia. He pitched today. And so he's not going to be available tomorrow. He's pitched a lot lately. And so, they could option him to call up a fresh reliever. It weakens the bullpen as far as quality goes, but as far as quantity goes, if they send him down and call somebody up, that's an option for sure. Or maybe they bite the bullet and DFA Yarbrough sooner than they intended to. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, Vesia has, struggled a little bit recently with his command. You think it, maybe could factor in a little bit of fatigue. He is one of the guys that's thrown the most in baseball and on the Dodgers this season. I don't think they're in a position to IL him and lose him for 15 days, but I guess it's an option they might consider. Maybe it's a combination of an IL and a DFA, and they get 2 arms. There's not too many arms down there, but maybe that's a possibility. They just get through the weekend. They're off Monday and they're off next. Like, they have 2 off days next week, so you basically just need to get through this weekend. So it's a matter of, okay, are you going to lose a potential player and lose a guy for 15 days in order to survive the weekend, or are you going to do one of those and try to get somebody, or are you just going to throw Ryan Yarbrough all weekend and then realistically he might not make it till next week anyways?
Yeah, that's a possible, or a combination of those. You option Vesia and call up the only guys available to be called up: Michael Peterson, Nick Ramirez, and Gus Varland. I think Peterson's probably not eligible to be called up yet, because I don't think it's been 15 days since he got sent down. So that means Nick Ramirez or Gus Varland. So even then, you probably have to lean on Yarbrough more this weekend. And then maybe you lean on him so much that he goes on the IL, which then allows you to recall Alex Vesia after the weekend. And then I don't know if you DFA Yarbrough from the IL, or if you just 60-day IL him and say, hey, at least this way you get to keep getting paid. I don't know, but it's going to be, I assume we're going to see a roster move or 2 before tomorrow's game series opener against the Astros, just because of the state of the bullpen. But there's really, you look at all the guys on the 40-man roster who aren't in the big leagues right now, and most of them are on the IL, including most of them on the 60-day IL. And then even 2 of the guys in the minors are guys who are hurt, Nick Frosto and Kyle Hurt, who aren't on the big league IL, but they're out for the season. And so, there is, I guess another option would be calling back up. Knack wouldn't be ready to throw a bullpen. They throw out in relief. So there's no great options here. I guess the other option is, transactions, a trade of some sort.
Yeah. The comment here about Vesia, if you option him, you're not optioning him to go pitch in AAA. You're optioning him to go rest.
To take a few days off.
Like they would option him and probably he might not even leave. Like he might just stay in LA or whatever. Meet him in San Diego if that was the case. Yeah, it wouldn't be to go pitch in AAA. Like remember when they did that with Maeda toward the end of
They sent him to Rancho Cucamonga, right?
Yeah. He never even left LA. So
then MLB closed that loophole. But it wouldn't be a demotion. It wouldn't be a performance-based thing for Vesia at all. It would be, hey, we need a fresh arm. You need a couple days off. So technically you're going to be optioned. I think there's plenty of ways they could handle that from his standpoint. The only question is there anybody worth calling up to replace him? Because Nick Ramirez and Gus Varland they both pitched in the big leagues, but neither of them is a great option. I don't know. Maybe there's transactions on the trade deadline's not till Tuesday, but the Dodgers might have a little bit of urgency because they've got 3 more games before the trade deadline that they need to get through. And if they're thinking about trading for a reliever, might want to do it now,
Yeah.
So,
did we talk about Crochet or did you talk about Crochet?
I haven't talked about Crochet in this episode. No. Yeah, that's it.
We don't have too much time, but the report is that wild to me that if he does get traded, he wants an extension to pitch in October, and he wants to remain a starter, and he doesn't want to go to the bullpen. And I don't think I've ever seen a list of demands like that before a trade.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Yeah, and you can kind of understand it from his standpoint because people always we always have the idea of trust the pitcher. Dylan Cease threw his no-hitter today, and Mike Schilt wanted to take him out after the 7th inning, and Cease lobbied to stay in. And so the instinct to say, well, trust the pitcher. But I don't know. Have you ever known you were going to get hurt before you got hurt? It just happens. And Major League Baseball players aren't any different. And so Garrett Crochet, I think he understands, I have no idea if I'm going to stay healthy. And so if I am going to put my health at risk to pitch a 7th month when I thought I was on the White Sox, I didn't think I had to worry about pitching in October. So if I'm going to put my health at risk, I want some guarantees. So you understand it from his standpoint. But but also that might help the Dodgers, give them an advantage if they were to trade for him. Say, okay, yeah, we'll give you the extension. And now here's what we're going to do with you to make sure that you're healthy to start in October. You are going to go to long relief for, or piggyback with somebody or whatever it is. There's lots of things they could do once they get him in, and maybe the Orioles wouldn't be as willing to give him the long-term extension that he wants. So, that it'll be interesting to see what happens. There's definitely adds some intrigue to the whole thing anyway. I'm just going to pop up this comment real quick from Cole. Imagine go to October with names like Honeywell, Biggio, Ahmed, and Yarbrough on the roster. I promise you, Kevin Biggio will not be on the October roster, and Ryan Yarbrough, I would be shocked if he is too. So if that makes you feel better. Nick Ahmed, if Ahmed's on the October roster, something's either gone really right or really wrong, I think, because I do think he was a stopgap signing. But the defense is great. And so
basically, if Rojas doesn't come back, he might be on there as the last guy.
Yeah. Or if Ahmed continues to average 1.5 hits per game for the rest of the season, including, a home run every 2 games, that'll keep you on the roster too. But, all right, you got anything else for today, Vince?
No, interesting weekend. And, the Astros of 2017 are long gone for the most part, other than a couple guys. But it'll still be interesting. I think Pantone's out there this weekend, so we should see some interesting videos from Dodger fans out there.
Yeah, for sure. And we will, this is our last scheduled episode of the week, but we will be here if any big trades go down, either for a brief reaction episode or for a full episode. We'll have to play it by ear, but keep an eye on this channel because we will be around if trades happen. And if not, then we will be around Sunday night to recap and talk about what happened when the Dodgers swept the Astros. But that'll do it for us for today. Thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning. Thank you to for those of you who are with us live here. We appreciate that. It's always fun talking live with you guys. Be sure to check out Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Sports Los Angeles over on YouTube, 24/7 streaming channels. Locked On Sports LA is where you can catch the Locked On Dodgers postcast after nearly every Dodger game. Locked On Dodgers YouTube channel is where you can find this podcast Monday through Friday. You can also, check out go beyond the podcast and become a Locked On Dodgers insider by going to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers. Just a few bucks a month with a free 14-day trial. Text directly with us. We pretty active with the last few days with all these transactions. It's a lot of fun, so check that out. You can also follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Locked On Dodgers. Vince is on Twitter at VinceSense91. I'm on Twitter at Snydog. DMs are open for both of us over there. You can also email us, lockedondodgers@gmail.com, or send us a voicemail or a text message to 323-863-LOCK, 5625. We are here every weekday morning. We hope you'll be here with us. When you get in your car or sit on your couch, tell your smart device to play podcast Locked On Dodgers. And remember, you don't have to agree. You just have to listen. We'll talk to you this weekend.
Have a good one.